What's going on, people? So, got a box of shoes here that I have never seen before. When I say that, I mean it's like a new model, to me at least, and mostly to the world, since I don't believe they've been out past this colorway. So, there's that. And because this is actually one of those unboxing reviews, you guys get to see my first real reactions and whatnot. Are these shoes going to be worth the asking price of 170 US dollars? Probably not. I mean, let's be honest. It is just a standard Nike Air Max shoe. There's usually nothing too special about them, honestly. Sometimes certain ones are just nicer than others. That's really about as far as that goes. But these came out this past Saturday. There's some other stuff that happened to, forget what it was. I think it was those red 13s or something. So when it came to these, everyone was asleep, as they like to say. Not me, though. Not me. I was there at 10 o'clock, Eastern Standard Time, of course, ready to rock and ready to get these right here. What you see on the side of that box? Let's see, what does that say? Air Max Genome, light smoke gray and iron gray. Well, there's that. Let's go ahead and see what these things are all about, huh? What is that? All kinds of dust and dirt falling out of here. Nasty, Nike people, nasty. Okay, so there's the first one. All right, that is weird. It seems a little strange to me. It really does. At least compared to what I saw of the picture. And I'm sure there have been some reviews out there already. I know Life of a Broski has one, but I don't watch reviews of things that I plan to buy because it spoils the surprise, you know what I mean? So now I'm looking at these, I'm taking it all in. And that thing that I said earlier about probably not being worth $170, I'm sticking by that so far. But let's go ahead and get on into these and see what we see. So let's break these things down. These right here, as I may have said before, is the Nike Air Max Genome in the light gray and some kind of iron gray colorway. Something like that. So we're going to start this thing down here with the bottom. Down there, what are we looking at? Let's find out. Looks like some standard Air Max type of stuff, right? Doesn't it? So it's got a bit of that dirty sort of clay type of thing going on, granite or whatever they were calling that. Crater? I think that's the word. Either way, it's got a little bit of that going on because this is one of those shoes that's made from recycled materials and stuff. So getting in there really close, that's where you can see that. So you got a little bit of pink down here at the top and at the back. On the outsides is mostly just that gray, and then in the middle it's also gray, but a lighter version of gray, right? And then it has Air Max written down there in a mismatched font sort of thing, whatever you call that when you combine several. That's going on down there. Enough of that. Let's move on to the midsole here. Up here you have the one thing that often catches my attention because it usually is associated with comfort, is the full length Air unit, right? So you have that going on, kind of similar to the Air Max, the 97, I think, maybe the 98, one of those. Either way, it kind of has that sort of vibe going on, so that's a plus. And then on the inside, one minor detail, right there you do have Air Max written in there on the side. You also have it on the, well, not Air Max, but you have Air on the front as well, so there's that for you. With a little bit of pink down and behind there, but you saw that. Anyways, just above that, you do have a nice mid layer here. It's kind of it's not quite white, not quite sail, some kind of in between sort of thing going on. Very foamy feeling, almost like what you might feel if you squeezed, whatever, the bottom of a Presto or Huarache, something like that. Kind of feels like that up here. So you got a little Nike thing indented on the side, and that's about it as far as designs, minus all these lines over here. I don't know what that's all about. I don't like it, but it's there. And so you got that going on. Let's move on and talk about the upper, because the upper is pretty much what mostly makes or breaks the shoe for a lot of people. So let's see what we got going on in here, past the look, and get down into kind of the materials to some extent anyway. We'll start here with the toe box area, right? So down here, you're looking at a lot of gray. You really are. The box led you to think that, and they definitely deliver. Down here, right around the bottom of the toe box, it's this stiff kind of plastic thing. It's got a little bit of mobility to it, but it's somewhat hard at the same time. I don't know. Either way, you got that going on. Above that right here, kind of outlining the mesh areas, you have similar to what you would see on a lot of those like rain and water resistant shoes, where it's kind of like a plasticky sort of feel there. So you have that going on. And then these three areas here where it's kind of meshed out kind of makes me think of the Vapor Max 2019 or the Element 87, things like that. So you have that material going on. So it should be breathable even if it possibly feels a little weird. I'll figure that part out later. But you do have that going on. One other thing to throw out there, this is, like I said, is made of partially recycled materials. They say 20% of the shoe or of the upper whatever. So where that 20% all comes in, I don't know. And it's really just up to that much. So it's freaking weird how they do that. But just know that you're helping save the planet or something. So if that's a reason to buy these, I guess, I don't know. Back to what we were talking about though. So you got that going on. Moving slightly over to the middle-ish area, you kind of have a bit of a zigzag crisscross line thing happening, which kind of reminds me of the Air Max 2011. And the front actually kind of reminds me of the 2012 in some ways. But either way, so you got that going on here, and you got a little bit of pink squared off in the background there with a gray and a slightly lighter pink or whatever going on, more faded, I should say, with that Nike swoosh going on over here. And that has a bit of an outline behind it, so there's that for you. And then swinging around a little further to the back, this area here looks like it would feel softer than it does, I gotta say. But it's kind of just like a thick padded material going on here. It feels very plasticky in some kind of ways, you know, not in the same way as this, but you might kind of have an idea of what I'm saying by looking at the pictures. And then down below you have the same thing you had on the front, just on the back, and this also says Air Max on the back there. Looking up just a little bit higher, you do have Air Max on here, on that pull tab, with a little pink Nike swoosh on the back there. And then behind that you do have some very soft feeling cotton nylon sort of thing going on right here. So that's pretty nice. I do like that. And it happens to dip down all the way onto the inside, so in case you're curious about how these will feel rubbing against the back of your ankles, it should feel alright, unlike certain like that Element 87s, I think. People have problems with those and I totally get it. I just wear socks and I'm good. So you have that going on pretty much, and that's, for the most part, that's it, honestly, when it comes to like looking at the overall shoe. But let's finish things up with these shoelaces, because those kind of matter just a little bit anyway, or at least this area. So down here, right, first off, on the side, you do have the laces being held down with a similar sort of styling that you saw before, as far as just like having a lot of gray, basically. So you've got that, and on here you have this, it feels kind of rough, and it's weird, it almost feels like those little, there's a place I used to work where you used to put these little things on like paper to kind of keep it where it was hole punched, you know, so it wouldn't rip or whatever, the pages wouldn't rip out. It feels a lot like those. I'm not sure what those are actually called, but they had a very derogatory term for them back then. But anyways, here's that going on in gray. Moving past it, you got some very much light gray laces, so there's that. And then down behind on the tongue, this part feeling not so great there at the bottom, kind of meshed out. At the top feels very much like the back over here, which is pretty nice. And then in the middle, nothing too fancy, just the same Air Max type of thing, and you got some of that pink and that gray, much like the rest of the shoe, right? So there's that for you. And at the top, I don't know if I said it, but there is a Nike swoosh at the top of that tongue. So there's that for you. And now let's go ahead and finish this whole thing off for the most part anyway, or at least the first half of the video, and talk about the inside. Down there, you do have pretty much just a pink insole, a little bit of gray, and it says Air Max. So you probably would have guessed that just by knowing that this is an Air Max shoe and looking at the colors, that that's what was going to be on the inside. But now you've seen it and you can confirm it for yourself. So before we go getting into the actual fit and all that stuff, because I have no idea how these fit, I'll hit you with the personal thoughts. Yeah, I'm going to still stand by what I said. They don't seem like anything amazing. Hopefully once I've put them on, that changes my mind, but I'll be finding that out in a few minutes. But again, I saw these. What drew me in was just that they kind of reminded me of certain other Air Maxes that I do like, just kind of brought all together. So that's why I bought them. Hopefully this proves to be a worthy purchase. I'm going to go find that out. You guys sit tight. I'll be back in a second. So now that I've tried these on, walked around just a little bit, I do have a few thoughts to pass on to you, so hopefully you're ready for that. If you are not, it doesn't much matter now, does it? Because I'm going to talk anyway. So here's the thing about these. We'll start with the sizing, right? Now, I did buy these in a 9.5, which is pretty much my standard size on everything. You know, when I say true to size for me, that's what I'm talking about. So that's what I have here, and these fit pretty much like I expected them to fit. They do have a bit of a roomy feel, at least to me, but the thing about me, I do wear thin socks and I usually like a snug fit, so mostly everything feels a little roomy to me. These just seem like they had a little more, so I wouldn't suggest going down half or anything, just to expect them to feel a little bigger in some ways, but that's just me. I would compare it to maybe some of the mid 2000s ish modern Air Maxes, you know, in like 2010s, 2011, things of that nature, you know. So that's just how I felt about these. But long story short, get your normal size. And moving on to the comfort and whatnot. So here's the thing, right? Around the toe box area, front of the foot, and all that stuff, that felt fine. The mesh, it doesn't give you as much mobility and stretchability as you might want in certain things, but that's to be expected based on the material. It's still really good for what it is though, so I can't really knock it. What I do have some minor complaints about would be this here middle area where the laces are, like right above where your foot starts to arch down. That's kind of stiff. It probably gets better over time. These did just come right out of the box, you know what I'm saying? But it's still kind of a thing that makes you want to look at something else if you're looking at new shoes. So take that for what it's worth and do whatever makes sense to you. Past that, though, the rest of the shoe, it feels fine. I don't think I'll have a problem walking around in these. The full-length Air units are always a good thing as well. So you do have that on your side, too. They are not heavy, but they aren't very light either. It's a weird weight in here. So if that matters to you, do whatever you need to do with that information, too, I suppose. But I just want to put that out there that they do feel, in some ways, like they've got just a smidge more weight than I might expect. Though they do kind of look heavy in a sense too. So, you know, there's that as well. But past that, I feel like I've covered everything that I needed to cover about wearing this shoe. So we're just going to wrap that part up and move on with our days. I do have one thing to mention, because to correct something I said earlier, but these have up to 20% of recycled materials. It's at least 20%. So maybe it's 21, maybe it's 100. Who knows? It's probably closer to 20. Knowing how Nike is, but they're charging you a lot for things that they don't need to charge you for. But anyway, it's at least 20%. Wanted to correct that because, you know, why not, right? It'll save me the time of extra edits later. Speaking of, I'm going to go ahead and do all that stuff. So from me to you, have a nice rest of your day or rest of your night, whatever it is, wherever you are. And I'm going to eventually be back with other videos because another pair of shoes did come in today. I just didn't feel like doing that review tomorrow, so I'll do that one at some point. Later, people.